Hello and welcome to AmusementSparks, the theme park design show. I've got two other podcasters on this episode. These are the guys from the Cocktail Party Congress. Who are you and what do you do on your podcast?
Ooh, I guess I'll start. I'm Dan Caves. I'm one half of the Cocktail Party Congress.
Oh.
I'm JT Andrews. The other half, the other guy.
Mm-hmm. And the Cocktail Party Congress. It's a fungal podcast that we do. We're both heavily interested in politics and current events and big smart people issues that we decide to approach them from another angle, and that is the angle of what does a drunk person think about these things?
What is it? We test our Constitution so America doesn't have to?
Exactly, yeah. Testing the limits of our Constitution so the country doesn't have to. So we decided to start this podcast because we're both very concerned with sort of the dark turn that our political conversation has taken. And, maybe we just need to loosen up and try to have difficult conversations a little more easily these days. And that's why we decided to institute a 3-drink minimum on our podcast, and that we take that dead seriously.
Very much so.
What do you guys do professionally? I'm so curious as a listener.
I'm an industrial electrician at a steel mill.
Wow.
And I am a document scanner for a medical center.
Like it seems like you guys could be professors or something. You know what I mean? Like you seem so comfortable with the content, and it's not like you're making a reach or you're trying to like wedge in this one fact. It's just like it's so conversational, and that's after 3 cocktails. Like that's pretty wild.
It's possibly because of the 3 cocktails.
Sure.
It loosens us up.
While we're on the topic, so you guys have both always been interested in politics, or like what are your your political origin stories, so to speak?
I can't remember a time when I really wasn't interested in what was going on in the world around me. I mean, when I was really, really young, one of the first news stories that really sticks in my head is the conflict in Bosnia, when that was going on in the early 90s. And I remember being very young, listening to all the grown-ups talking grown-up talk, and I was like, what are they talking about? And the more I listened, the more I learned, and it sort of got me into politics.
That's great. Yeah, having your eyes open is always a good thing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What about you, Dan?
Probably the most important moment in my early political awakening was September 11th, and that was one of the first major events that I was like mentally online for, and I don't know if it awoke something in me or if it just like developed something that was already going on in me at the time, but like it like triggered like a leadership reaction in me, and I got very conservative as a young person. Like I was exposed to a lot of like very effective propaganda that we all kind of vaguely remember from the early 2000s and
all too well.
The entire Bush era, and I started getting really interested in partisan politics and in the war on terror. I started out by the time I got to college, I was founding and presiding over college Republican clubs, but all along the way, learning about myself in the process to the point that by the time I got out of college, I was essentially a lapsed Republican. And now I'm not registered with any party, and I really don't know if there's a home for whatever my particular ism is. But I my political journey began as a very closed-minded person who then went on a little bit of a journey to have that mind opened up to the point that now, like I said, I'm not registered with any party. I just got admitted to law school, and I'm going to be going to do something less in the partisan realm as far as that goes. So I'm trying to find a more ethical way to be part of the orderly functioning of our republic. I'm a small R Republican is the way I describe myself now. Nice. Is like I believe in the institutions, and I try to immerse myself in the philosophy that is supposedly behind them, and then to not be afraid to question the reality versus the story that we tell ourselves about about our system and about our history, and that doesn't make me a very good team player as far as party politics goes.
Right.
I haven't quite found a home, which is why we're carving out our home.
I feel like a lot of people are in that space. Yeah, there's a lot of room for nuance in between the two extremes, or not even extremes. Sorry, the two parties.
So once you reject isms, your life, a lot of things in life become a lot easier, a lot simpler. But the way you express yourself about those opinions, actually becomes harder. You lose out. You leave the party. You lose out on the primary votes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's like you're learning to stand on your own, which is hard, but also very empowering once you figure out what's going on, how to do that. Yeah, that's
and
cool.
Terrifying.
Yeah,
it is a little bit terrifying.
And congratulations, Dan. That's exciting news. I heard that on the latest episode of your show. I was like, that's amazing. Like, you've got kind of a future in the field, and that's very exciting.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really excited to be a functional part of the system again.
Sweet.
It's gonna be good.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Good things on the horizon, including building an amusement park.
Yeah. So why are you guys on my show? Like, my show is a theme park design show that's, like all ages, and yours is a political discussion show that requires at least 3 drinks. It's like pretty opposite ends of the spectrums. But I really like your show. We're connected to each other. We want to work together. So let's try to do my thing, which is to make a theme park. And you guys could pick from any topic in the whole world. I've done everything from certain like musical albums to all kinds of cartoons. I've done the Survivor TV show. What are you guys interested in? What do you want to make a theme park based on?
I think Dan had a really good idea, and it's something I want to pursue.
Let's hear about this. What is it, Dan?
So what I am going to propose, just to keep it in with the Cocktail Party Congress tie-in.
Yeah.
Now, to answer a question ago that you just asked.
Sure.
Why are we on your show? Well, because politics is riddled with absurdities, and half of the fun is like putting those absurdities under a magnifying glass and just examining them and just seeing why we ever believed that in the first place. So the idea for a theme park is UtopiaLand, a land of like an Epcot center of different high-minded political philosophies. And if we could like design attractions around like each section of the park represents a different ism, and we can like talk about what would be required of each of them. And I don't know how vast you want this to be. It could be a sprawling wasteland for all we know.
That's just the Anarchy Park. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's the parking lot. Even
where
it all
there's no
lines.
Lot. There's no lines at this parking lot.
Wow, that's amazing. If you follow like the park rules in each area are dependent upon that ism's rules or priorities, that's really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So this definitely sounds like one of the most like off the wall ideas ever, which I'm totally up for a new challenge. I do think that a lot of people are kind of afraid of politics, or they're like, that thing makes me feel stuff that I don't want to, so I'm gonna avoid it. Like, I think that's a relatively common perception. So making it something more inviting, like a theme park, that is maybe a way you can learn about politics and be immersed in it, and kind of, like you said, like make fun of it or like understand how bizarre parts of it are, would be a good thing. It would bring politics to more people's plates and into their conversations. And I don't know, it might be like a good kind of outreach for the political system in general, which is a really weird idea, and like that's a big agenda for a dumb theme park. But
I know it is.
Let's see what we end up with. It's a pretty capitalist thing in general to make a theme park, charge an admission and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I think we can try to do service to it. Treat it like it's like a museum, or like even like a children's museum, because it's got to be more interactive.
Yeah.
But we need to include a lot of content in here. It's going to be kind of interesting. But usually it's easiest to start by like drawing a rough outline of the park's map and then zooming in from there.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think to get from point A to point B, you're going to need some kind of tramway or like a miniature train. You could have the train of enlightenment, where you get you get some guy dressed up like a 18th century French philosopher at the helm of this thing.
I think that the tour guides should all be actors playing different political philosophers through the years.
Yes.
So you can have like a John Locke train, or you can have a Machiavelli train, or like an Aristotle train. So
oh my God.
there's a different like heavy personality kind of political philosopher, like giving you the entire spiel along the way. And maybe you'll get a different story depending on who you have, like who you get.
Right. I do think that the actors playing these train conductors could be really fun. Like it could be like kind of a Jungle Cruise kind of thing where the employees get to kind of make up their own like jokes, and like depending on which character they're playing, there could be different types of humor and of parts of the park that they like to emphasize and point out, and just like hearing their commentary would be kind of cool.
And that will get our attendees to come back, because for all they know, they're going to get a very different park experience with Aristotle as opposed to Karl Marx.
Absolutely. And
collect them all.
For as huge of a system that politics is, it is also a very human thing, and the kind of flavors are very much nuanced by whoever is cooking the soup that day. It's like you might be talking about the same thing, but sharing it from a different perspective makes it look different, and that's part of the beauty of it. So having as many different, diverse kinds of opinions and perspectives represented, the better. So that'd be really cool. I like the idea of having a wide swath of various political persons who can be representative personalities. That sounds really cool.
I would love to get this lesser talked about topics in on this too. Like I was thinking about the Weimar Republic and how you could try to get something going with there. I feel like that section of the park would almost be very much inspired by works of Fritz Lang, very metropolis looking, something that
like old German silent kind of like where Tim Burton got a lot of his inspiration.
Yeah.
Right. But sort of how they almost wanted to be. Like almost their image of the future.
Whoa, that is an amazing idea for the theming. Like if the park is kind of about utopia, each of these different isms has a different version of what that looks like. So that totally leads into the theming. Oh my gosh, dude! Yeah, like the kind of communism area would have like just kind of brutalist architecture and very like straightforward concrete buildings. Everything's the same color, and that sounds really fun.
I'd feel bad if it was like the snack vendor where it's like coming soon, guys. It's on its way.
Oh no! It's like that would have to be the one area of the park that doesn't serve food.
That's really good. And I do think, just to be sensitive and be respectful, before we actually open the doors, we'd want to have some experts in the field of each of these isms kind of give their input on what color the walls should be, and just the kind of art deco-ness of certain areas, or whatever, the specific theming of the architecture should be signed off, and is this joke okay, or are you guys still hurt about that, or that kind of thing.
You get it cleared with historians.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, there are some things that are still taboo that you really shouldn't put into a theme park, especially when there's kids there.
Right.
Well, the way I've heard it put, P.J. O'Rourke, the comics, like the satirical journalist, he says that the one rule for making a joke out of politics is don't joke about human suffering, but feel free to joke about the persistence in error.
I like
there
that.
You go.
That goes right along with kind of political cartoons and criticism and stand-up comedy and all of the things that reference politics in that kind of way, pointing out the absurdity of it. Like that's kind of what life is about, I think. So that sounds awesome. It fits perfectly in a theme park.
And you just put it perfectly, Andrew. It's like an interactive political cartoon.
Yeah, I think that's it, man.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty exciting. And hey, I mean, even if we don't get the budget to make the actual theme park, if that doesn't get approved, we could at least do like a cool themed restaurant where all the different waiters are various like political figures from history.
I was thinking of a ride. I mean, you could do this for whatever real history, like whatever historical period you want. But whenever there was like a great power vacuum left, there could be an absolutely insane like tilt-a-whirl ride where with like each one of the cars looks like a different historical figure that they're all trying to grasp power after the death of whoever it happened to be at the time.
That kind of a battle royale thing, like a sort of a combative metaphor, works well for a lot of different attractions like that. Like that'd be kind of fun.
Be a great place to play Secret Hitler.
Oh yeah,
that game is great, and yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of social games we could try to adapt to be different experiences and stuff. Cool. So we've got the sort of train system. We have the different themings of the different areas. What do you guys want to talk about next? Do we want to do like specific attractions? Do you want to do more of the big picture bird's eye view kind of stuff, or what are you interested in talking about next?
With the food, there needs to be like a huge variety. I think just representing all these different cultures.
I'm just picturing the overall structure. Like if we've got the kind of, there's a perimeter tram vehicle, maybe towards the middle there's like some kind of body of water, and then we could have like a ring of like the restaurants around there. It's kind of a little inspired by the Epcot area, I suppose. Yeah. But just having like a nice, more peaceful kind of like world peace area in the middle where it's like, well, this is where we all kind of come together and share borders right here, and everyone's eating and kind of looking at this pretty water. It might be nice to have like a place that's kind of a break from the political discussion and from exploring the isms, to just be like, and then this is where everyone breaks bread. I mean, it's a very diverse place. Like there's foods representing all these different cultures. You can kind of go around and experience those different foods, and then as you're ready to get back into the more political stuff, you can go back into the main part of the park, which is that donut area in that space.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
I like that structure. Like the central common area could be structured could be modeled after the UN or something like that.
Oh, that's really cool. Do you envision the park guest being like a museum guest, or do you think they should play some specific kind of role? Like, should there be role-playing kind of area, like a model UN or like a model legislature or something like that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd love to see something like that, or like or even a stage show, or several of them, where you get to see their politics in action, almost, where you see the politics of the time and the period, depending on which area of the park you're in. Each has like sort of an assembly where you have actors doing it, and they try to get the audience participation, where it's almost like going to Congress and actually looking in and seeing the lawmakers in action. They just have this constant thing going.
And do you want that to be of depicting like key pivotal moments in history, like the signing of the Declaration, for example, like that kind of thing? Or should it just be like every day we're voting on this specific House bill today?
It should vary, I think. It should vary a little bit with, but at the same time, it should be somewhat realistic as to what happened, and the political beliefs of the time should really come into play.
Right. I don't think any of this should be fantasy, but I think it could be, if you focus on the kind of larger than life things that actually happened, it does kind of get that feeling of being a little bit cartoony, but I guess that's kind of the vibe of the park, too, if we're trying to go for a political cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we don't want it to be mundane. We don't want it to be like you're just flipping on C-SPAN or something, which might get a little bit... It might feel a little bit too real.
Maybe in Liberalism Town, maybe you can have a council of, like, all the actors get together in a daily council to, like, debate and decide on, like, a matter of, like, policy, like somewhere in the park. So like, we're talking about like raising the tax on Coca-Cola by 5 cents. We're gonna have like, and then you'll have like a spirited like old town hall style like political debate in the town hall, but it would be different in all of like in the different ism towns.
Oh, like absolutely.
In communism land, you wouldn't have rambunctious political debate. You would just have posters telling you what Comrade Stalin did today. And, like, every day there might be like a new decree on every street corner or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like
Same thing could almost work in Monarchy Land.
Oh,
well, Monarchy Land, I think you would have to like make it a little bit like a Ren Fair, because
Yeah.
that's what you think of when you think of,
it.
especially like European monarchy is that. So you might have like a town crier come in and say, you know, whoever the king of Monarchy Land is, you know, has just did this thing, and you know, ain't that great?
So you have like this would work in either fascism land or communism land, but you just have a loudspeaker that just blasts propaganda literally all day.
Yes.
Like,
I love that.
somebody who's like really unenthusiastic about their job has to
Right.
do this. Like, you could almost get Ben Stein to do it, but that's a little too happy.
That's great. You could learn to like march in formation and enjoy all the joys. I mean,
Of praising the dear leader.
sounds great. Oh, there's a question. Do we want this to be an English language park, or do we want it to be more authentic? Like, I feel like we kind of have to do the thing that movies do, where it's like, this is a movie about a historic time period that wasn't speaking English, but it's for an English-speaking audience, so, you know, like, we can make that leap. So, should we do the same thing here, you think? Or do you have to learn these languages, or try to make do with what little Russian you know?
I think it should be English language.
Yeah, depends on where the park is. I mean, if it's
Yeah, exactly.
True.
if it's in an English-speaking area, then yeah, have it in English, because we want this. We're supposed to be the marketplace of ideas. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't do very well if nobody understands one another. So I'd say that the local language would be what it should be in.
Although if we want to go full like League of Nations, let's pick a common everything. We could make the official language of the park Esperanto.
Perfect.
Oh,
So everybody
Yeah.
gets like an
Language for
Esperanto
that.
to English dictionary. Like
that's great.
That's pretty cool. Because, I mean, yeah.
Saluton.
That's it's a good idea, okay? But we could do kind of the United Nations thing of like there's just a ton of translators everywhere, like ready to help you understand what everyone else is saying around you. It'd be exhausting, and that's a lot of expense, but it'd be
And the
kind of
ones
authentic.
in fascism and communism lands, like the translation isn't at all like what was actually said. And
Oh,
that has
man.
to be obviously so. Like, obviously so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Like
funny.
somebody
Well,
comes up in duress and like makes a heartfelt appeal to you, and so the translation that comes in over the headphones is like, yes, it is another beautiful day in our glorious like,
It's
and I
almost
bid you
like-
welcome and a quiet stay.
I was thinking of like Charlie Chaplin in The Great Dictator, like when he's first scenes where he appears pretty much as Hitler, and he's given his speech, and you have the translator saying it's like, yes, for the entire world he has nothing but peace in his heart.
Yeah, that's pretty
You know,
much.
things like that would be funny.
Yeah, that's really great. There's a lot of room for really good jokes in that space right there. And
Right.
even if we do make it, you know, let's say this park is based in America, so everyone is speaking English, you could still have those kind of translation jokes where, you know, when it's necessary, when it would be really funny if the translator is changing things pretty drastically. Or honestly, that might kind of show the sort of communication breakdown that happens when you go through a translator, where you can
Right.
hear the original person because they normally would be speaking Japanese, but right now they're speaking English because we're in America, and then the translator tries their best to translate that to English, and it comes off a little bit differently, and you're like, oh, my thoughts about this person who's actually speaking is totally shaped by the translator who's trying to like instantly translate everything. Like, that's a really hard thing to kind of break down. Like, that's a difficult problem to try to solve, you know?
Oh yeah, it
It'd be
is.
cool to kind of illuminate that a little bit.
Pull up Google Translate, pick a random language, say something in English to it, and then have it translate, and then translate it back, and keep doing that back and forth. It's like a game of telephone, but it's really funny, some of the things you get.
I've done that, and you're totally right. Like, that is so weird that even Google Translate, the technology which should be the solution to that problem, has huge breakdowns when you start going back and forth. You're right.
And like, what a hard job it is to actually do that in the circumstances. Like, if you've ever seen, like, whenever the UN meets and you watch something like that, you get to hear, your language's translator come over the audio, and like they're struggling.
Right, talk about pressure. Like, that's high stakes stuff. That is, you do not want to like flub your vocab on that. You, yikes. What about dictatorship land? How's that gonna go?
It's like the one part of the park you feel obligated to go to, or like you have no way to get around it.
And
everybody's miserable there the whole time.
So maybe dictatorship land would.
It's a great name.
I think that what you would want for that is you would like roll all of them into this one area, and so like different types would be different sections. So like in the Soviet section, or maybe just in all of the dictatorship land, you would have amusement park employees dressed in that way, where they are obviously spies trying to look plainclothes.
Nice.
Like if you watch an Indiana Jones movie and you can always tell the Gestapo agent.
Oh yeah.
Because they're trying so hard to not look like a Gestapo agent. There's the kind of like fun absurdity of it, but also like maybe give people a sense of what it kind of feels like.
I like that.
There should be a border crossing.
Watched.
There should be a border crossing to get in.
Oh man, that's interesting.
Like, you should have to show your papers, like show your ticket that you are allowed to get in.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And people could give you a really hard time at certain border crossings. They're very like they have high levels of scrutiny, and like they always have to call their supervisor, and it takes forever for you to get over there, or they're like trying to get a bribe from you, and like. There's some real places to kind of get some hands-on experience and like kind of make a statement about like the hardships of politics and about nations intermingling and all. There's a lot of interesting points you can make there.
You could almost have actors posing as like regular park patrons, and then at the border crossing, all of a sudden they're like taken away, never to be seen again.
like
with every tour group, there could be at least one plant.
Oh man,
yeah,
who always gets taken away.
That's pretty cool. I like
that's
that.
A great idea.
And maybe like within the story of the park, like maybe they realize that representing dictatorship land is the most challenging part about it, and like these people generally don't make great neighbors. They're always trying to take over, like no matter what part of the park we put them in, they're trying to like take over their neighbors' territory and stuff. So maybe the dictatorship land area is more of like more of those kind of experience sort of things. Like you could maybe have an attraction where it's like, what if you were the dictator and you got to pick these decisions, and then there are actors who show you what the ramifications of that would be, or to show that basically there's no correct decision in a lot of these really heavy political decisions. Like, there's no right way to do it. Even if you were the president of the United States, you couldn't fix all of these issues that you think you could fix by being president of the United States of America. It'd be kind of cool to do kind of an interactive storytelling sort of experience to kind of show just the hardships of the job. And even if you are the dictator, things don't always go your way.
That's really cool.
We could also just have dictatorship land, and it's more of like a little cartoonier version of that, where they're not actually a threat to their neighbors, and it's more just kind of a day in the life of this kind of country or whatever.
Right. You're just kind of trying to cope with the fact that you live in a dictatorship. Like, for example, the restaurant at this place, like half the menu is just blacked out. Like
we should pick a fictional fake dictator for this area.
Yeah.
Where as many things in this area are a reference to him.
I like that. All the streets are like named after him, and that's fun.
Yeah. Streets, food items. Yeah.
So-and-so Avenue, so-and-so Boulevard, so-and-so Lane.
That's great. This would make a really fun theming for like an escape room, doing one that's set in a fake dictatorship country. So maybe like so many of the things that the public has access to is controlled by the government, and you know what I mean, like all the streets having the same name. Like imagine trying to solve like a map-based puzzle, but literally all the streets have the same name. They just have like, you know, different endings at the end or whatever. It'd be kind of funny.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting like artistic license. It'd be an interesting theme to say, you know, there's so much less diversity and richness in just the things that would be in this room. You know, it's a lot of monotonous kind of, or maybe this will work better in the communist area where so many of the materials are the exact same. So trying to solve puzzles with them and find clues are like, everything in this room looks the exact same. You know, this storeroom is just the exact same thing time after time. Yeah, there's no diversity here. There's no difference between the items. I don't know. That'd be kind of interesting, and I think doing a sort of political themed escape room might be kind of a fun thing, especially if you need to like rely on clues from history or, you know, that kind of stuff would be kind of cool.
It could be something like the escape room is you have been taken into the commissar's office for interrogation. He's left for a while. And now you have to like solve a puzzle based on like what's in the room. Like what, like in this bureaucrat's office, like what would like get you out? Like, and that's the thing that's going to be most unsettling about it, is that it's this completely unreal experience to, you know, Western people like us, but the room that it's set in looks like any other office.
Right. It's not like the Oval Office or the, you know, Yeah,
it's like a kind of an alienating but empowering experience of like maybe the entire attraction is an escape room. Mm-hmm. Like an elaborate like stage by stage escape room, and where you're
not
like
technically an escape room, there's like escape room kinds of elements, because it would be weird if it's like you're locked in the leader of the country's office. Like, why would that ever happen? But maybe it is like you're touring it and you find like a little hint of a puzzle, and if you can solve the puzzle, you know, you can get to whatever their missile silo. I don't know what you're trying to get with, but it'd be kind of cool to not necessarily lock people in the place, but have these kind of cool puzzles hidden around.
Ooh. Building on that, what if each tour group, like different people are given different items in like a scavenger hunt that occurs across the entire span of the park, and so like there's something to find in, you know, the commissar's dacha that that like, you know, it's like a little goal that you get a prize at the end or something. That if you can find like the secret file or something like that.
It incentivizes you to pay attention and to try to engage with all of these different isms to try to find their little, you know, the little trinket or whatever, the little doodad. But yeah, the goal of it is to get people to pay more attention and to get more detailed and more interactive with it. So be more engaged. I think that sounds really cool, and it'd be neat to get a reward from that.
Yeah.
There should be, like, you know how you got the big mascot costumes? They should get those to stage, like, boxing matches between ideologies.
Wow.
And they're always laying down, like, whenever they're smack talking, they have to use, like, you know, pretty much attacking somebody's position. It's like, it's almost like debate manifested.
That sounds so cool. Like, do you remember Celebrity Deathmatch? Did you guys ever watch that show?
Yeah.
I'm picturing something like that. Like, even where like the announcers or whatever would be making jokes about like these two ideologies coming to terms with each other. That sounds really great. I love that.
Yeah, like I'm imagining a big cartoon plush Karl Marx versus like. Now the thing is, I can't like. When I imagine the mascot for like 19th century industrial capitalism, I am imagining Mr. Peanut, like the Planters Peanut guy.
Yeah, the caricatures can get kind of cuddly here. Yeah, you're right. Once they get to a certain cartoony level, it's like I kind of want a stuffed animal of that. Like the merchandising, man, could be super cool.
The merchandising is everything here.
Right, in capitalism land, absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if there's a store in every area, but Capitalism Land has just a huge store where you can get all of the fun stuff, and then just like have it more specific to what that specific ism would think is appropriate to sell in a retail store.
Communism Land, I think, would have things that are more like useful for sale as opposed to things
utilitarian.
That are empty, very useful things. It can almost be like walking into Tractor Supply,
right. I was picturing a Navy surplus kind of store. Like this is like the most practical backpack you can get, but it's the only one we have. Wow, we've covered some fun stuff. Like this honestly is way better than I thought it was going to be. Like this is so much more interesting than I thought it was going to be. You guys have done awesome so far. What?
Oh, thanks.
Sure. What else are you thinking? Is there anything else you are dying to talk about?
I think we need a couple of rides.
Yeah, amusement parks tend to need those things. Rides. Okay.
Well, maybe Capitalism Town could have the roller coaster of the markets.
That's really fun.
Communism Land has a mirror image one, but it's always under construction.
Right. They have a ride where you sit on a tractor and you just go down the field, and then you turn around and come back. Then you can get off and someone else.
Then you turn it around and go back the other way again and repeat until you have met the quota.
Yes, exactly. You finish the field and then you're allowed to get off the ride. That'd be really funny if it's like a mandatory 20-minute ride. It goes really slow. It's not fun. You actually have to steer it. But you can't get off until your field's done.
There's just a commissar at the edge of the field, just have fun until you're done. There's
Communism Land, I feel like has this merry-go-round where all the horses look the exact same. None of them move. You have to have a roller coaster though that's got the craziest ups and downs ever, and just so you can ride, Adam Smith's ride of capitalistic markets.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a cool idea. The ups and downs of that. Yeah. And it could be even modeled after, a certain course of history. Be kind of interesting.
Yeah, the big plunge at the beginning is 1929.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to get really detailed into it, get the economists into a room and have them chart out the percentage the percentage changes in the markets for each of the different booms and busts. And then translate that into all the different gradients of ups and downs, so you can get okay, so this basic recession and this is just going to be very, very gentle, but it's definitely you're still moving, and then you work your way up to 1929, and then it's kaboom, you go down the big hill.
Yeah,
and then that's where you gotta you pretty much take their charts from the economists and hand it right to the engineers.
Yeah,
exactly. We need you to build this ride.
Make it so. That's great. The Great Depression could even be like a drop coaster,
Yeah.
Where you can hear news stories and stuff while you're up at the top about when things are going swimmingly, and then you can hear as you're starting to plummet, you can hear it just reads the newspaper headlines, and you can hear little snippets of the audio from the newspapers or whatever. It'd be kind of interesting. Or maybe it's playing on the ground for the people who aren't actually on the attraction, so they can kind of understand the metaphor a little bit more. It's pretty heavy-handed, but it would be a roller coaster, which is what these people want. So
I
feel like all the rides are metaphorical in some way. Like what I was talking earlier with the power struggle, where it just goes round and round like a tilt-a-whirl really, really fast. I'm liking this. Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Oh, totally. This is super fun.
Yeah. And I had an idea that I had for the liberalism town. At the very beginning, you'll walk into a 1700s, 18th century French cafe. Everybody gets a powdered wig when you come in, and it's you get to sit in this really spirited, origins of the Enlightenment and liberalism kind of discussions, and it's a place to sit down and have a cup of coffee, and then you can kind of move on through the history of that to the point where at the end you're just in like this really sleek, shiny neoliberal gift shop. It looks like the Apple Store or something like that.
Nice.
Something like it all leads up to this.
That's great. We should do that as maybe the entrance to each area, because the sort of decor and the theming is like that ism's utopia. So maybe seeing its evolution would be kind of cool as you're entering that area before you've even seen the theming and the architecture and all of that stuff. You're seeing how they came to that decision of kind of that's what utopia means, and so then by the time you get through the door, you understand where this all came from.
Yeah,
that's exciting. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Love it.
Nice job.
I'd go there.
Oh yeah,
I'd
me
go
too.
to this park.
I'm curious. It makes me more curious about most of the isms. You know what I mean? Like, I've always had a little bit of curiosity about like what other people believe that are different from my beliefs. Like, hopefully all adults have that kind of curiosity. But if there's a way to just go through it and learn about it in an hour and then go on to the next one, like, that's really cool. It's not like I have to go hang out with someone who I really don't like or something. It's like there's an actual experience where I can get hands-on experience and tour through it in a way. Tour through its progression and learn about it in a way that's more interesting than reading a book on it or watching a YouTube video on it.
Right. I feel like all these different sections have to really demonstrate the pros and the cons of everything.
Yes.
Like, for example, in capitalism land, literally everything is supersized. Like, you can't get a small meal.
The smallest possible portion is still extravagant.
Yeah, it works really well for the capitalists. Yeah, it's only 30 more cents for the huge one, so you have to buy the huge one.
Yeah, and at the same time, you could have the planted beggars in capitalism land. That are always asking for something. Things like that, where you're aware of the implications of excess.
And while we are pointing out the kind of zaniness and the wackiness and the absurdity of it all, there's also a lot of poignant messages you can deliver as well, and there can be some really powerful, not really activism, but like outreach kind of for each of these isms, and pointing out like why people believe this thing, why people are honestly into this with their hearts. We're all human beings with brains who have lived all of their experiences, and people have somehow come to the conclusion that this is the best way. So showing that progression is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
Every single, I feel like every single area of this park has to have a bookstore where they sell the literature that's associated with their perspective,
That's cool.
outlook. Like there you find, Capital, and you find the Communist Manifesto in communism land. Dictatorship land is a little bit. You can get into some real legal trouble, probably. Where it just wouldn't be worth it. But
and forget about the anarchist bookstore. You're not allowed to sell any of those.
That's the parking lot. The parking lot with no lines, because you start and you end with anarchy.
All they sell is cookbooks.
Right. The department list is like just cookbooks. Oh, that's cute.
You can sell books that not only represent but also critique those ideas.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I think and that's something that I'm all for, is like a willingness to even consider ideas that you like. You agree with a certain point of view, but you also acknowledge, like you said, that there's a good reason why other people believe the other way. So kind of like getting into the heads and like learning about why they think what they think. Like, and like in this case, like something that when in 2015 the copyright on Mein Kampf expired, and that copyright went away, they had to get ahead of all of the new publications of Mein Kampf there were going to be. So they got a historical society in Munich to create a version, and it's like I've got a copy in my bedroom. It's like these 2 enormous tomes that are the entire original text of Mein Kampf, including like a Talmudic ripping apart of the text. So it's like it's got a lot of like heavy margin notes and a lot of content, like doing everything that's like humanly possible to like contextualize everything that's in there. And so,
and that part's without judgment, right? It's just making it more full, a better picture.
Yeah, right? It's like and it's like it's historians giving the perspective on, it's like, okay, so here's why he's saying things like this, and here's what the historical context was, and it's like, here's how this turned out. And so I'm sure that there are other books like that for like less heavy subjects that like you could sell things that even contextualize.
The number of history majors we would employ is incredible, you know, because there need to be people representing each perspective within each land in a way.
Reduced to carnies.
Yeah, it'd be kind of fun though. Like it's like living history. I mean, I know it's kind of a cartoonization of it, but you're exemplifying this political ism for a public who doesn't know about it but is curious about it. So I think it'd be really cool to be able to talk to part guests about, like, you know, you should read this book if this is your perspective, and if you don't understand why this person would do something like this, here are some really excellent reading materials I can recommend. Or we've got this documentary screening at 4 p.m. if you want to watch it, that would kind of explain this. Or there's a lot of connections you can make.
Almost a bittersweet experience, where you see the satire, you laugh at the satire and the caricatures of everything, but you also understand the lessons that you're being taught about history, like the context that everything is in. So in that sense, it should be bittersweet, but still an enjoyable and worthwhile experience.
I love that word bittersweet for this part. Like, that is such a good idea to like write that on the whiteboard and just leave it there, because like we do want it to be fun and entertaining and educational and funny, but yeah, like you said, they should represent actual people's actual beliefs. And when you go to the ism that you believe in, you don't want to feel like you're a victim. You want to feel empowered there, and you want to be able to laugh at yourself a little bit, but not so much that you feel bad about your beliefs necessarily.
I believe in the absolute necessity of being able to laugh at yourself and your own beliefs.
Of course. You know? Guys, this was really cool, and honestly somewhat bittersweet. There were funny moments, and there were moments that made me consider a lot about, you know, these other isms. Like, I'm so much more curious than I was when we started this recording about researching these belief systems and why, like, their historical context and their cultural context. I don't know. I mean, that's really cool. I don't know that after every podcast I want to research something, but usually that means watch a few episodes of some kind of cartoon. Like, this is a way bigger deal. This is a much more impactful experience.
I'm really glad that we could bring this to you, and this was a lot of fun to record with you.
Yeah, you know? Dude, for sure.
This was. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm glad you felt like you either learned something or you felt like you have to go on to learn something, which is how everybody should feel all the time.
Yeah.
Like, totally. Every day, try to learn something new.
Yeah.
I love that.
And if I could just add one last thing as far as the isms goes, and this thought just occurred to me, is that I think we're, especially in our current climate, where we run into trouble is when people take on their isms as a personal identity. And I think that that's where a lot of the animosity comes from, is when you hear someone attacking a policy position that you might have, it then becomes an attack on the self. And that's where I think some of the emotion comes from. And isms make terrible identities, but they're good descriptions of things. So if you look at the ism as just a description of what's already going on, and, you know, maybe you will agree with this or that or the other thing, but like, that is, I think, healthy, but it's less healthy to elevate the ism to the point of it being conflated with the self and the identity. So take a step back, remember that you're only human, and, do your research and consume as much information as possible, and eventually the truth will come out.
Beautiful. That's
Mic
so
drop.
true.
I can't think of a better way to wrap that up. That's it.
Yeah, that was awesome, and it relates back to the top of the show when we were talking about, like, kind of stepping out from that umbrella of the two-party system. You know, being labeled Republican your whole life, and then deciding to maybe step out a little bit from that and like test the limits of it. And when you're not underneath an umbrella, you're gonna get rained on a little bit more. But if you're underneath the umbrella, you start to get scared to branch out, and you don't understand what it is to be not under this umbrella. It's hard to relate to people who are just walking down the street with no umbrella. It's like, what's wrong with you? Like, get over here, be a Republican, or whatever the specific ism. Yeah, man, that's powerful stuff. Nice work.
Well put. Thank you.
So yeah, if a listener is intrigued by you guys and your political discourse, where might they go to hear more of that?
Well, you could go to cocktailpartycongress.com. That's our website. We are also on Facebook, and you can also download our podcast on iTunes and Google Play.
I remember on the last episode of your guys' show, you were talking about how you have kind of stepped back from using Facebook that much, from posting that much, because you were like,
yeah,
if it's not worth doing a press release about, I'm not going to post about it on Facebook. And then I kept thinking maybe that's going to tie into the Cocktail Party Congress Facebook page. Like, that's going to be your new platform for making all of your press releases related to politics. But
yeah, that
not
could be.
Yet. Maybe in the future. I love your podcast, but then again, I'm an adult who's okay with swear words. So just a warning to the audience, you guys do use adult language, is that correct?
Yeah.
About the only time we don't use it is during the moment of clarity, which is the only sober part of our show. We actually record that while we're sober.
I want to ask about that, actually. I'm glad you brought that up. The moment of clarity at the end is almost like a speech that one of you will give. You alternate, is that right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we alternate.
It's like one of us picks the cocktail of the podcast and the other one does the moment of clarity.
So do you write those? Like, how long do you usually spend on those things? Because they're beautiful, they're eloquent, they're well thought out. It seems like you got a speechwriter to write them for you, almost.
We are our own speechwriters. Great
job.
It's good to get a positive response.
Dude, it's great. The one you just did about the student protesters. I'm a high school teacher, so on Friday we have all these like walkout workshops that we're doing. It's an art school too, so we're letting students do whatever they want to, pretty much. But the teachers are going to have all these different like political activism workshops going on. Like, I'm in charge of like a phone bank room where students can go and like call political representatives, and I'm doing a workshop where we're making zines, and then we're going to photocopy them and distribute them to like the students and their families and stuff. So I don't know. Great. It's just exciting. It was cool to hear your perspective on that and like the level of respect that you brought to it and thoughtfulness, and I don't know. It was really cool. It reminded me of one of our social studies teachers who's just really, really awesome, and is kind of about actually making an impact and actually being thoughtful about people. And I don't know. It was just it struck a chord with me. It was beautiful. Those at the end of your episode are always really great. And I feel like so many podcasts, like the last like 15 minutes, it starts to like, I can tell when they're starting to descend, and I'll just like fast forward to the end and like delete the episode. But with you guys, it's like it doesn't seem to descend at all, and then it's like, okay, oh, it's over, and then there's just like you just do it like a home run. It's like the moment of clarity is like they shift gears and they just like knock it out of the park at the very end. It's such a cool way to end the show. I wish more podcasts weren't just about like, let's just run ads at the end until everyone's stopped listening. Like that's no way to end a show. Come on.
That's kind of how we wanted to end it. Was we wanted something that was heartfelt, that came from us, and that was just like, why don't we do a speech? Like, let's try to find some time to do a speech. It can be as long as you really want, like within reason.
Right.
But let's give it a shot. Let's start doing these speeches. And the way I did it is I try to limit myself to one typewritten page.
Nice.
Just for the sake of time. But all that comes right from the heart, and it's really that sobering moment. I mean, we try to have fun with our conversations, but that's the real sobering moment that we're speaking directly from the heart.
Yeah. It's really cool. It really is valuable.
And like our theme park, we're gonna have our fun during the episode. We're gonna crack jokes. We're gonna be flippant, and then at the very end, it's a nice reminder that it's like, by the way, we're talking about some serious stuff here. You know,
it's up to us to fix the problems.
Yeah, it's up to everybody, and also that includes us. You know.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's amazing. Thank you guys for doing what you do. Thank you for being on the show. That was awesome. I wish you luck in your podcast future. It's exciting.
Absolutely. Thank you. And maybe we'll see you around the Cocktail Party Congress one of these days.
I love being on the show. Thanks for having us. This is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.